Okay. Thank you guys for joining us. Nicole, you can go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi, I'm Nicole Giannetta. I'm an upcoming sophomore at Ohio State, and I am interviewing Mr. Orban and Mr. Roberts for the Institute of Cybersecurity and Digital Trust. If you want to say a couple of things about yourself before I go ahead with the questions.
My name is Doug Roberts, and I am a math teacher at Metro Early College High School.
My name is Chris Orban, and I'm a professor at Ohio State, and I work closely with the Ohio Department of Education.
So what is the program Discrete Mathematics?
Chris, you want to talk about the background of the course?
Sure. So discrete mathematics, to me, is the branch of mathematics that is the closest to computer science. So the technical definition is that it's a branch of mathematics that's concerned with counting separable things. So not so much continuous stuff like in calculus, but problems like the traveling salesperson, where you have all these different places that you have to visit. Problems like how many unique handshakes are there in a room with a certain number of people, and those kinds of problems are often the kinds of problems that we're using computers as a tool to solve. And so there's a natural connection between computer science and discrete math.
Yeah, and as far as my end teaching the course and how it's been, we include a lot of those different kinds of problems, combinatorics, graph theory, cryptography, some cybersecurity mixed throughout, but we also have some game strategy and group dynamics mixed in, along with the computer coding activities that really have been designed to engage students, and done a really good job with that.
So when do they meet?
As far as the class, it's a class that we take every day, and it's part of the high school curriculum. It will be rolling out to additional high schools this fall, and then the work group that's been designing the course has met. Chris, can you talk a little bit about how often that work group has met?
Yeah, we first started meeting in January 2020 with an in-person meeting, and then the pandemic hit, and so we went virtual since then. But we've been working on this for quite a while, because we wanted to make sure that we're not just providing an alternative to Algebra 2 that's just much easier, or just some class that students will take because they're trying to avoid Algebra 2, but we're trying to make sure that the phrase is rigor. We're trying to make sure that there's a lot of good mathematics in it, and not just throwing computer science at a course in a less than thoughtful way.
Nice. Okay, so what type of content is covered?
So I mentioned that there's graph theory, there's combinatorial games, iteration, recursion, counting or combinatorics, cryptography. There is Chris, correct me if I'm forgetting anything.
No, that's good. I mean, we go all the way to like RSA encryption, things like that. We have an activity where we're scanning through all the possible combinations to try to crack the pin for a smartphone, and how long does that take to scan through. And we're doing that because there's some interesting math there, but it's also very important, just basic cybersecurity for our students' lives. They're going to live in this world. where cybersecurity is just so important. It's really fun and satisfying to be able to share that content with them.
Yeah, that's definitely important. So what do you want your students to get out of it?
Well, for me, I want them to enjoy the activities that are designed with the thought of getting and increasing engagement, but also teaching them these mathematical skills. So I do want them to get those, and like Chris said, the rigor is designed for them, for not to just be a path of least resistance, but for them to actually obtain these skills, these mathematical skills, and prepare them for college level mathematics.
Yeah, for me, I think what excites me about the course is that only about half of all public high schools in Ohio even have a computer science course. So not even half of all students taking computer science, but just half of all public high schools even have a teacher that could even possibly teach it. And so there's a lot of kids that just never really encounter this content. And so, I love computing, I love coding and programming, and I love sharing that with students, that they can build things that move and change and look interesting and all that stuff. And what's really amazing about this new program is that it can be taught by math teachers, even if they don't have the full credentials to teach computer science course. And so that policy is set by Ohio Department of Education. So this is going to be one of the few ways where the students in the 50% of high schools that don't have a computer science teacher, it's one of the few ways that they could even learn computer science skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what would you say are some of the aha moments that you have?
Well, what's nice is after being able to go through the course for the last semester, teaching it, there are a number of aha moments that are actually built into the course, which is great. Each of the coding activities, I feel like, has its own aha moment for students, and since it's designed to encourage a productive struggle to get through those coding activities and some trial and error and working through those things, it tends to promote students having their own aha moment within each activity. We have a games unit that where students play a offline version of some kind of board game that has a mathematical strategy behind it, but then code a portion or the whole game on their coding activity, and throughout the unit, not told what that winning strategy is, but have to kind of come up with it on their own or within groups. And so those aha moments are really built into the course for students to get along the way. So that was something that was really enjoyable to see as we went through the semester.
I think one of the aha moments that I enjoyed the most was in the context of this coding activity, where you're scanning through every possible pin of like a smartphone to try to crack the thing, and not only to do that, but also to predict the amount of time that it would take to do that, which connects to a discrete math topic called combinatorics. But I really enjoyed that because at the end of it, and they did all this coding, they did all this good math stuff, think about all the different possibilities. At the end of that thing, we asked them, so are you going to make your passwords longer? And a lot of them were like, oh yeah, I definitely will, right? Because they could see how much longer it takes to guess a password if you just add even a single character to it, or if you add another character with a different symbol in it. So that was kind of fun. That was kind of a fun day, I remember.
Well, and part of the course also, we had at our high school, we had our IT person who's in charge of our cybersecurity for our school come in and talk about what he does and sees on a regular basis. And, that was an eye opener for a lot of the kids, seeing what, not only what the school has to do kind of behind the scenes as far as protecting our network and protecting students and their cybersecurity, as well as the schools, but what he does for in his own personal life for his own cybersecurity. And so I think that was kind of an eye opener too for a lot of students.
Yeah, so what would be the next step for students who complete this course, and especially if they're interested in learning more about computer science or cybersecurity?
Well, I can talk about the high school side. So the course is being designed as essentially the third math credit, or an equivalency there for that third math credit at the high school level. It can be taken as a fourth math credit or even an additional fifth math credit for students to earn a STEM honors diploma. So it's I know that there is intentions at my school of adding a digital pathway in the near future. So it could end up being a prerequisite for that. And so there's a lot of different avenues and students who can benefit from this class, just as far as their high school graduation and credits are concerned, on the math side. But it does have that element, that beginning element of coding involved in it. So if students want an entryway to computer science or coding, it provides that door if it's something that they have not seen before or been exposed to. And then as far as beyond high school, I think Chris could probably talk about that more.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that an important program at Metro is to allow students who are ready to take classes at Columbus State and at Ohio State. So a student who's interested in computer science could take, I don't know what the course number is, CS 100 or whatever it is, at Ohio State to learn more about that, or they could potentially take the cybersecurity courses at Columbus State or at Ohio State.
Yeah, so it definitely sounds interesting. I think I would have benefited from it myself if I had the opportunity to take it in high school. But like you said, I was one of the schools that didn't even have a computer science class, so I don't know much about it, but it sounds interesting, and I like that it has real world applications. So yeah, Julia or Cal, do you have anything to add?
Nope, you did a great job. At this point, I would just say thank you guys both for joining us. I think this went really well. Do you have any final remarks or anything you'd like to let our ICDT community know about the work that you're doing, or how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, so discrete math will eventually be available throughout the state. And if people are interested in discrete math, there's people at Ohio Department of Education like John Wiseman that they can reach out to. And for example, they can request to be part of next year's pilot. And so they can be part of that cohort of teachers. So I'd encourage people to look into that if they'd like to learn more.
Yeah, just
Awesome.
thank you for having us.
Thank you both.